Hi everyone. This is a very short presentation of a subject I believe doesn't get enough attention, and that is how people who have been involved with the justice system, even if it was just once in their lives, are exposed to some of the most common privacy violations when it comes to their data, specifically their criminal data, and how other people can find it. This presentation is based off an article I published at the end of April 2024, which narrows it down to 5 very specific ways criminal defendants are left vulnerable to having their past arrest, charging history, or past convictions exposed to the entire world. Even if their record was sealed, expunged, or dismissed, you're soon going to learn that this is not the case, and it takes extra effort to remove criminal record data from hundreds and sometimes thousands of databases. I do have a spoiler alert. I have some good news at the end, but to understand it, we have to cover the not so good news first. So let's get started. When we're talking about criminal history, we're talking about really 3 things or 3 categories that continue to be the biggest factors: arrests, charges, and convictions. Why is that the case? Because these are the events that have actual dates associated with a criminal record, and these are used what are called dimensional model keys within large data warehouse technology or relational database management systems, or RDBMSs. Now, really quickly, many discussions about criminal records revolve around employment, housing, and reputation. I find that the third area does not get enough attention, and my reason for making this presentation specifically is to bring more awareness to this. What do I mean by reputation? I mean, if you've ever Googled yourself or Googled someone you just met, like a neighbor, a coworker, maybe someone you might be interested in, chances are you'll find something online offering you a chance to purchase a report that includes their date of birth, where they live, and yes, maybe the most juiciest stuff, whether they have a criminal record or not. Why is this important though? Because 1 in 3 Americans have some sort of criminal history. It's been well established that the national data compiled by the Bureau of Justice Statistics and similar government organizations basically support this figure. 96% of employers are believed to have conducted background checks on new hires. This is actually 2% above what the original data that was published about 8 years ago. Another research source determined that of those employers who do conduct background checks, 19% of them do under continuous monitoring, in other words, after they've been hired. Finally, something that may or may not shock a lot of people is that 18% have done some kind of criminal history research on a potential love interest or an online dating candidate. Now, this chart I created to show how robust the laws in the United States are about collateral consequences. To those with criminal history of any kind, nationwide, there's about 43,000 consequences that can result from just a single arrest, charge, or conviction. The highest, of course, is associated with employment. This data was taken directly from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, sometimes called the CFPB, which has maintained an incredible database on consumer complaints. What should be noted here is that out of the 5 million complaints submitted to the Bureau since 2011, the top spot goes to consumer reports, which you should all pay attention to if you have a prior history, because background check errors are part of this very large pool of complaints. Now, some of you may be wondering, wait a minute, what about all the work I did getting my record expunged or getting my arrest sealed? Clean slate laws, after all, have gotten a ton of attention the last 3 or 4 years. Well, the bad news is that this is a topic left for a discussion in itself, but criminal record suppliers do not go backwards. Now, I don't expect everyone to nerd out on this diagram. It's just a high-level architectural view of what a typical large-scale warehouse and how it organizes its data. But there's really only 2 things to learn from it. Number 1, the extraction of data typically goes one way. And number 2, the primary function of any data supply business, like criminal history providers, is to provide their data with new data. But you may be asking yourself, where does this criminal data come from? Application Program Interfaces, or APIs, as well as sophisticated web extraction tools, are a very big piece of the puzzle, but it's not the whole thing. The vast majority of records come directly from law enforcement agencies and the courts. What happens next is what most people don't know about. It gets stored in commercial database systems which are private. In other words, these are not government agencies. The data sits in data silos, which can be described as very large data files that don't connect to the outside world, and they operate independently. Some of these systems update hundreds or even thousands of times a day. Now, you may remember this diagram from earlier. There's no need to memorize it, but just notice that there are multiple staging environments, and deleted or flagged data or cases that shouldn't be part of the system, they get treated very differently by every agency out there. It's incredibly important to know that there is no built-in mechanism that goes backwards when it comes to data warehouse technology. It's like a lake. So this simplified image below me pretty much sums it up. A bunch of small databases feeding into much larger ones. Now, I did promise that I would touch on the dangers that defendants are exposed to when it comes to their reputation. So let's go down the list of the top 5 that were detailed in the original article. The number 1 spot has to do with erroneous reporting. Basically, any inaccuracy or outdated information that is included in a background check report or online database. These are basically arrests that did not get charged, cases that were dismissed that still show up, expungements or seals that are still included. All of these are privacy violations that many people don't know can actually be avoided or mitigated. First of all, by being diligent with your records, and second of all, using some kind of legal privacy technology. The second are unauthorized disclosures. These are a little bit similar to the first, but somewhat of a different flavor, because this has to do with over-inclusion. Many people who are charged in court have multiple charges at first, but end up pleading guilty to just 1 or 2 of them. The third violation is a misuse of someone's record. This is where it kind of gets into murky territory of online databases that are not supposed to be used for employment or housing purposes, but to look up people like your neighbors. This is where people's worst nightmares occur, where suddenly thousands of people know where you live, or find out about something that happened years ago, and there should be no reason for them to be able to find that information. Number 4, we get into a creepy territory. That same data can be used to do some nasty things to people, like actual stalking. This is an aspect of criminal law that many people don't know about, where an abuser can get the other person in trouble with the law, and then once they're part of the system, use those same public records to make their life even more unpleasant. Finally, unlawful sharing comes down to getting someone's criminal history where you weren't supposed to get it in the first place, then passing it along. Notice the devilish enjoyment on the faces of these 2 ladies as they learn what you-know-who got into trouble for a few years ago. Now, there is some good news. Because of the sophistication of some data providers out there and a healthy data ecosystem, you can basically clear out erroneous data, flush out the bad cases, and use effective compliance tools that the company has invested in, such as, Record Fixer. And why is a tool like this effective? Well, it's based on serious research and development for the past 7 years. But there's a lot more to this. Our tool was battle tested on our own clients, and we've monitored the supply chain of criminal data since the very beginning. We built our own detection algorithms that analyze between 50 to 80,000 unique URL sources. And finally, we've started implementing partnership programs with public defender and legal aid offices to help organizations devoted to helping their clients achieve real privacy and move on with their lives. So that's pretty much it. To find out more, just head to our website and check it out. I really hope this presentation brought some awareness to what you were looking for. If there's someone you know who can benefit from this information, please pass it along. Thanks a lot for watching.